Andrew.
Hello.
Thanks for joining me, mate.
It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, this is amazing. Like, actually, this is what Ideas Fest is all about. So me and you can meet.
Yes.
That's what it's about.
Yeah. And a massive plant in the middle.
And a massive plant, yeah.
to add to the ambience.
We'll leave that there. Oh, sorry. It's happened. You're a super interesting guy. You've had an amazing journey so far for someone young, actually. Let's say it as it is.
Yeah.
Give us the 30-second journey, what you've done and your amazing achievements to date.
So to cram it into 30 seconds, I think working class, council estate family background, had a challenging time in my early life. Managed to get myself together when I went towards university and studied business. I went and joined a graduate scheme in property management and then did that for about 6 years. And then one day when I was about 26, 27, said there's no way I want to work for big businesses anymore. I want to get off this capitalism curve as early as possible. And literally had a good job, everything ready, and just left one day and started a business from my bedroom. So I was about 27 at the time. I literally, when I say I started with nothing, I mean nothing. I had a laptop, no friends, no backers, no money, no backup plan, absolutely nothing. And I literally started from my bedroom, and over the next 10 years grew the business to about £50 million turnover and about 500 staff. And then raised about 100 million in private equity exit value through that time as well. About 18 months ago, I stepped back from working, and now I do various volunteer and non-exec jobs and doing things like this. So very briefly, that's the story.
And thanks for joining us.
See you next time.
I mean, so much to take out of that. So much to take out of that. I mean, there's raising private equity value. There's building, starting a startup from your bedroom.
Yes.
I guess let's take 3 incredible lessons that you've learned from building and scaling.
Yeah.
Was it a 9-figure business?
Yeah.
If
absolutely.
I'm getting my zeros right.
Yeah.
A 9-figure business, like 3 big lessons, and what do they mean to you?
Okay, number 1 is just all about yourself. When you start up on your own, people say, oh, that's great. You can have a lay-in on a Tuesday if you want, when you're no, like you are going to work harder than anyone could ever motivate you to work. Yeah. There is not a boss out there that's going to make you work harder than you can work for yourself. If you don't trust yourself to absolutely put everything into that business, maybe entrepreneurship is not for you, because you have to be self-motivated beyond any doubt that this is what you want to do. And I was one of those guys, and I mean it, 110 hours a week easily I was doing. I lived, breathed, slept. That's all I did was entrepreneurship for those 10 years. Because I knew every time I wasn't absolutely on my A game, the competitors, of which, by the way, in the sector I was in, there's over 100,000 companies that do what we do. And like I say, we got into that 1% club in terms of growth and getting out of like the real micro stage. Your competitors are always behind you. And so actually you just have to be completely determined that what you're doing, and look, we all have motivations for different reasons. But for me, I always talk about it's in here. It's what's in your soul. When you're having a shit day, what is it that's going to drive you to actually make the best of it and try and turn situations around? So my lesson number 1 is truly ask yourself, do you care about this enough that you are going to keep going even when no one's prodding you from the back? And that can be very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Lesson number 2, you don't have to do something new. Right. So like I said, there's 100,000 competitors in the workplace services sector, which is what we did. We did exactly what they did. We just tried to focus on what did they not do very well. And actually, I was listening to Rory Sutherland this morning, and we did exactly what he said. Right. What do I think the bigger businesses that were serving the sector weren't doing very well? They didn't treat their staff very well. They'd completely lost touch with social mobility, and they'd lost touch with the customer. It was about servicing the customer. So those 3 things. So we honed in on those 3 things. And in all of our marketing, for which we had 0 marketing budget, by the way, it was all social media led marketing. All our marketing was based on, we are exceptional at those 3 things. And the biggest thing I can say is, you just need to be slightly better than others in certain areas to get noticed by companies. Now, look, my clients or the clients were big tech companies generally. So these were companies like Deliveroo, Early Door. So we were there with Will Shue right at the very beginning, eating pizza, when he was going through his journey. He just exited last year for a significant amount of money as well. So for us, it was about getting with those companies that are going on a journey themselves. Now, when you're a small business and they are a growing business, you both understand each other's fragilities in that, you know, you're not going to get it right the whole time on both sides, and you can go on these amazing journeys. So my advice would be for number 2, go out and look, right? What do you admire? Who do you think is absolutely smashing it right now? And why can't you do the same as them? Yeah. The truth is you can, but go and find out what they're not doing very well, build your brand around what they're not doing very well, and tell people that that's what you do well. Now, the backup for us was ESG was a huge thing for us. So environmental, social and governance initiatives. We delivered 150 different initiatives in our time. Everything from literally doing a kickstart scheme where we took 30 people off, young people off benefits to come and work in our business, of which 50% went into full-time employment afterwards, making our own honey, planting our own trees, doing 100 skydives, you know, like we did these amazing storytelling things that we could do. But it was real. So when we were sort of comparing ourselves to others, and the one thing I learned about big tech businesses, they sort of take for granted that you can deliver services, but you can show that you are a better social business than others by the real examples of what you do. So don't be afraid to go into a market that's already saturated, because you can do it better than other people can. You just need to understand what your niche is. That's number 2.
You see, there's a lot of narrative around the opposite of that, though. Like, you know, I started without a niche, and I'm not talking about myself, but, you know, I didn't start without a niche. I just went and did it and then discovered that later.
Yes.
And, you know, and I guess what we're trying to say is that there's probably, you're talking about your journey here.
Absolutely.
It's not a one size fits all for everybody.
Yes.
Someone else might get there differently. The road to success isn't linear.
Yes.
And I guess you know that probably more than anybody else.
Look, the benefit of the journey I've been on, I get to meet lots of amazing people now. And the one thing is, no one has had the same journey that I have. But isn't that amazing? Because that means that there's opportunity for everybody out there. And I really sort of love this idea that, yes, I came from a working class background and worked my way through, but there are people who come from money and can make extraordinary amounts of money as well. I think the point is, I think the UK is particularly good for entrepreneurship, to give people the opportunities to do it. The barriers to entry for me to start the business when I did was almost nothing. I just needed to buy a laptop and register a business on Companies House, you know, which only cost a few £100. It was absolutely nothing. And then, like I say, we were sort of very early in the social media movement. And again, that's part of the advice. You need to create a brand online. You don't need to spend tens of thousands of pounds on PR agencies to do that for you. Find your voice, create what is authentically important to you, and tell people that story. And it will shine through as long as it's real. And not just marketing bullshit, basically, which often people fall into.
Yeah, they do. I think they kind of go so far away from talking about actually what matters and focusing more on engagement, and it's usually through fear. I think actually, like, you know, they don't want to talk about themselves for fear of rejection, for fear of looking silly, for fear of standing away from the groupthink, you know, like all that kind of stuff. So
it's conformity. You know, we're, again, a very British trait is that sort of do what everyone else does. But I'm not saying you have to go out there and be extremely like different. I'm just saying you need to focus on something that just makes you a little bit better than others. And just going back to that perception point, you'd be surprised if you tell people things enough, they will believe it. But you have to believe it yourself as well, and be able to back it up.
That's so true. Like we have a small AI startup at the moment, which is basically focusing on getting people visible online. You know, turning your voice into visibility. And one thing that we say at the moment is what we believe in is that people buy from people. They know, like, and trust. But they've got to believe in you. They've got to believe it, and you got to fucking believe it yourself as well, haven't you? Right? Otherwise, what's the point?
You know, AI and everything is an incredible tool to help us grow, but authenticity comes from meeting face to face. Like I was saying, eyeball to eyeball, handshake to handshake. That is how you create amazing connections. And actually, one thing we did all right in through COVID. So look, we're a workplace services business. In COVID, all the workplaces were closed. In that time, we managed to grow 20%. In that time, when all the workplaces were closed.
What COVID? What COVID?
And do you know the way we did it? We found the bigger businesses were really contractual with their customers. So say the customer had to give 6 months notice to make any changes to the contract. The service providers were saying, you need to give us 6 months. We went to every customer and said, hey, look, this is a rubbish situation for everybody. You can change your contract today. Let's work it out. And we were able to win other business from bigger providers who were really sort of stuck in their ways. And it's incredible to think about coming out the back of COVID. We then grew from about 18 million to 32 million off the back of COVID in 1 year in turnover terms. and as well as bringing our profitability with it as well, and growing staff numbers from like 150 to 250 in that time. So like these things are possible. But like I said, it's just all about that perception and taking those opportunities.
I mean, there's just so much to unpack with the whole thing, and I know we've already spoken off camera, but we're going to do this again.
Yes, yeah, we can do a lot
and
more
we're going to do it for a
Yes.
good 90 minutes, I think. But there's so many challenges there, you know, like running a scale-up business, being at the head of an enterprise. It's not a startup anymore. You don't have that quite. You don't have the same culture. You know, you've got different things, and I think there's so many challenges that we can unpack there. But
each one of those is a half-an-hour podcast on its own, because just the one thing I would say on that, I didn't really feel the pressure of the weight of it until we had our first round of private equity, and I think I mentioned earlier, and this is on camera already. We thought the business was worth about £6 million, roughly. We went to private equity. We had offers between 14 and 20 million. And at that stage, that is when I was like, this business is actually worth a lot more than I thought it was. And now my dreams of like paying off my mum and dad's mortgage and buying my sister's houses for them and stuff, that was within touching distance. And that's when pressure became real, because actually at that point, then you could touch something that until that point was just a theoretical thing that might happen in the future. And for when you're an entrepreneur and you get your first offer for your business, it's a very special moment.
This is a bit of a difficult question to ask.
Yeah.
Never mind to answer.
Yeah.
Do you think you're still relatable?
In certain things, yes. In certain things, no. I think for me, I'll give you a real story, which I shouldn't share, but I will. I am a big Arsenal fan, season ticket holder. And
End it there.
That's it. All finished.
Just go.
I went to watch Arsenal versus PSG in the Champions League semi-finals earlier this year. Now, look, I've done well in my time. I could afford a nice hotel.
Yeah.
I stayed in a 6-person mixed dormitory in Paris for that one. And I ended up going out, and I was with a load of Arsenal fans. I went on my own and met some people there. Ended up having a great time. Had a bit too much to drink. Really enjoyed it. Arsenal lost. You know, it was a terrible day overall. Went back and slept in that 6-person hostel, you know, with a load of other people in the room, and woke up in the morning with my hand in a jar of Nutella because I'd been eating Nutella and bread the night before.
Hey, I mean, there's worse ways to eat it.
We've all been there. That was less than 6 months ago, that story. So I think, like, look, the background I'm from and what I love about my family, even though we've been able to financially secure all of my family and, you know, and buy everyone's houses and things, when I go around to my mum and dad's, it's still exactly the same as it was. Do the dishwasher, take the dog out, you know, make sure that you're part of that family unit. Yes, they're incredibly grateful for the opportunities that I've been able to give back to them, but doesn't matter. It's nothing special.
And I think that's values, right?
That's right. And that's why I think working class values are so important and keeps you grounded in all of that. And actually, I haven't really gone out and done anything flashy. And in terms of, I'm not trying to show people my wealth or anything like that. I'm actually for free trying to say to people, you can go on this journey as well. And sort of here's the ideas about how you could do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I still do things. I'd still prefer to pay £50 a night for a hotel room than I would £250 a night. And I'd still love to eat Nutella out of a jar when I'm drunk when I get back to my bed.
Take the boy out of the council house. You can't take the council house out of the boy, can you?
That's exactly right.
And I'm the same. That's exactly my background as well. So I completely relate. And it's the same when I go around to my mum's as well. It's, you know, it's 2 cups of tea. Take the dog. You know, all of that kind of stuff. And it's
only yesterday I was laughing with my sister because I've never had any public channels before. So I've just opened my public channels now to sort of be an entrepreneur in terms of in the press. And I was saying to my sister yesterday, I was like, I don't want to brag, but I've got 23 followers on TikTok now.
Hey, it just reminds me of that scene in Gavin and Stacey with Bryn, and he's talking about, I'm up to 15 friends now on the MySpace. I'm overwhelmed.
And my sister just rolling her eyes, hearing all this bullshit over and over again. And but no, I love it. And I never want to be any different. And actually, the final thing I'd say on being relatable, it's a big issue for me with my kids. Because I don't want my kids to grow up thinking they got a trust fund that's going to support them in the future. I need them to work hard and be their own person. Now, they're going to have opportunities that they can go and follow what they love. You know, I don't know, there's certain, you know, things that people don't make much money out of, but they can go and do it and know there's a safety net there. But absolutely, I don't want to bring up a couple of brats that just are entitled to money, because that's not where I came from. And actually, what I find compared to other people, like the circles I'm in on, like the entrepreneur stuff, my kids have a lot less than they do. And actually, they understand that every time you go to a shop, you can't buy 2 toys. You need to do something to earn it first. That is a really, really important point to me. And actually, I sort of see my success in how we bring them up. Because if you're not careful, you're going to bring them up in a way where they're not going to be nice people as they get older. And that's a challenge for me. I see that as personal success now. My final lesson is finance. Finance, 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 finance. When I started, I completely underestimated the importance of a CFO and having your financial stuff in order. When you go to sell a business, private equity or investors or whatever will spend hundreds of thousands on due diligence to make sure that what you're saying is true. I've been through 2 processes myself. I've met 50 private equities, in my time. It is brutal. And they will drag you over and over and over again, especially if you're trying to do it in a short period of time. So for me, get your finances in order. And I really mean that from the very beginning. Understand how you make your money, where your profitability is, what your cash flow is. And things like Xero finance packages are really cheap. They're really easy to use. But I promise you, when people are going to give you millions for your business, they care about the money. And you need to care about it as well. And I have worked with CFOs that are incredible and create lots of value, and with CFOs that are awful and detract from value at the same time. So yeah, option number 3, focus on finance right from the very beginning. It's very boring, it's very tedious, and it's not very sexy, but I promise that is what will help create value when you come to due diligence at the end.
But that's where some people find their element, in finance. There's people out there that absolutely love it. So go find those people, right?
Yes. And actually people in finance can make a load of money, because if they can join SMEs at the time before they go to sale and financially prepare them for it, they can get a couple of % sweet equity that might be worth a few million quid as they go through the journey. So yeah, I just don't forget that. It's great to do the sales and be the charismatic leader and the founder and all that stuff, but money talks. And that's how you get enhanced multiples of your EBITDA when you come to exit.
Wonderful. Andrew, love that, mate.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
We can chat a bit
I'm
more
looking forward to part 2,
Yes.
the long version. This is just a teaser.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Appreciate it.